A steam locomotive is a railway locomotive that produces its pulling power through a steam engine. These locomotives are fueled by burning combustible material, usually coal, coke wood, or oil, to produce steam in a boiler. The steam moves reciprocating pistons, which are mechanically connected to the locomotive's main wheels. Both fuel and water supplies are carried with the locomotive, either on the locomotive itself or in wagons pulled behind. The first steam locomotive, made by Richard Trevithick, first operated on the 21st of February 1804, 3 years after the road locomotive he made in 1801. Steam locomotives were first developed in Great Britain during the early 19th century and used for railway transport until the middle of the 20th century. From the early 1900s they were gradually superseded by electric and diesel locomotives, with full conversions to electric and diesel power beginning from the 1930s. The majority of steam locomotives were retired from regular service by the 1980s, though several continue to run on tourist and heritage lines. Origins: United Kingdom. The earliest railways employed horses to draw carts along railway tracks. In 1784, William Murdoch, a Scottish inventor, built a small-scale prototype of a steam road locomotive. An early working model of a steam rail locomotive was designed and constructed by steamboat pioneer John Fitch in the U.S. during 1794. His steam locomotive used interior bladed wheels guided by rails or tracks. The model still exists at the Ohio Historical Society Museum in Columbus. The authenticity and date of this locomotive is disputed by some experts, and a workable steam train would have to await the invention of the high-pressure steam engine by Richard Trevithick. The first full-scale working railway steam locomotive was also built by Richard Trevithick, called the Puffing Devil, in the United Kingdom, and, on the 21st of February 1804, the world's first railway journey took place as Trevithick's unnamed steam locomotive hauled a train along the tramway from the Penwydarren Ironworks, near Merthyr Tydfil, to Abercynon in South Wales. Accompanied by Andrew Vivian, it ran with mixed success. The design incorporated a number of important innovations that included using high-pressure steam, which reduced the weight of the engine and increased its efficiency. Trevithick visited the Newcastle area in 1804 and had a ready audience of colliery owners and engineers. The visit was so successful that the colliery railways in northeast England became the leading centre for experimentation and development of the steam locomotive. Trevithick continued his own steam propulsion experiments through another trio of locomotives, concluding with the Catch-Me-Who-Can in 1808. 4 years later, the successful twin-cylinder locomotive Salamanca by Matthew Murray for the edge-railed rack and pinion Middleton Railway debuted in 1812. Another well-known early locomotive was Puffing Billy, built 1813–14 by engineer William Hedley. It was intended to work on the Willem Colliery near Newcastle upon Tyne. This locomotive is the oldest preserved, and is on static display in the Science Museum, London. George Stephenson built the locomotion for the Stockton and Darlington Railway, northeast England, which was the first public steam railway in the world. In 1829, his son Robert built in Newcastle the Rocket, which was entered in and won the Rainhill trials. This success led to the company emerging as the preeminent builder of steam locomotives used on railways in the UK, US and much of Europe. The Liverpool and Manchester Railway opened a year later, making exclusive use of steam power for passenger and goods trains. United States. Many of the earliest locomotives for American railroads were imported from Great Britain, including the first the Stourbridge Line and later the John Bull, but a domestic locomotive manufacturing industry was quickly established. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad's Tom Thumb in 1830, designed and built by Peter Cooper, was the first U.S.-built locomotive to run in America, although it was intended as a demonstration of the potential of steam traction, rather than as a revenue-earning locomotive. The DeWitt Clinton was also built in the 1830s. The first U.S. patent, US 1, was obtained in 1836 by John Ruggles for a locomotive steam engine for rail and other roads. Ruggles' proposed locomotive had a 2-speed gear and a rack mechanism which was only engaged when climbing steep hills. It is not known whether it was actually built. Continental Europe. The first railway service in continental Europe was opened on 5 May 1835 in Belgium, between Mechelen and Brussels. The name of the locomotive used was the Elephant. In Germany, the first working steam locomotive was a rack and pinion engine, similar to the Salamanca, designed by the British locomotive pioneer John Blenkinsop. Built in June 1816 by Johann Friedrich Krieger in the Royal Berlin Iron Foundry, the locomotive ran on a circular track in the factory yard. It was the first locomotive to be built on the European mainland and the first steam-powered passenger service, because curious onlookers could ride in the attached coaches for a fee. It is portrayed on a New Year's badge for the Royal Foundry dated 1816. Another locomotive was built using the same system in 1817. They were to be used on pit railways in Königshatten in Louisenthal on the Saar, but neither could be returned to working order after being dismantled, moved and reassembled. On 7 December 1835 the Adler ran for the first time between Nuremberg and Fürth on the Bavarian Ludwig Railway. It was the 118th engine from the locomotive works of Robert Stephenson and stood under patent protection. In 1837 the first steam railway started in Austria on the Emperor Ferdinand Northern Railway between Vienna Floridsdorf and Deutsch Wagram. The oldest continually working steam engine in the world also runs in Austria. The GKB 671, built in 1860, has never been taken out of service, and is still used for special excursions. In 1838 the third steam locomotive to be built in Germany, the Saxonia, was manufactured by the Maschinenbau firma Ubig, near Dresden, built by Professor Johann Andreas Schubert. The first independently designed locomotive in Germany was the Buth, built by August Borsig in 1841. In 1848 the first locomotive produced by Henschel Worker in Kassel, the Drake, was delivered. The first railway line over Swiss territory was the Strasbourg-Bâle line, opened in 1844. 3 years later, in 1847, the first fully Swiss railway line, the Spanish Brötlibahn, from Zurich to Baden was opened.